Good afternoon, Hollidaysburg. Greetings. I welcome you to the Hollidaysburg American Legion Post 516 rededication ceremony of Company M, the 62nd Infantry Regiment, their battle flag. My name is Sam Dunkel, and I'm the commander of Post 516, and today I have the honor of serving as your master of ceremony. I am most pleased to announce that we have accomplished 2/3 of our mission today. Mayor Stokes is going to talk about it, but earlier today we took the battle flag back to Gettysburg and rededicated her on the battlefield at 10 a.m. this morning. What's more, we symbolically brought her back from the battlefield here to be with you today with a military police escort in a military convoy, which I would tell you was challenging. And I'd like to thank the MPs from the 28th MP Company out of Johnstown behind me. Our purpose here today is to pay tribute to the men who served in Company M, especially those who paid the ultimate sacrifice and gave their lives in the struggle. It is fitting that we remember those sacrifices made so many years ago, with today marking the 154th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. As we pause and assemble here at this monument dedicated to all that served in Blair County during the Civil War, let us be truly thankful and grateful to those who served and helped preserve the Union of the United States of America. Most importantly, we want to keep American history alive in the hearts and minds of our citizens today and for generations to come. I'd like to introduce some of our VIPs that are with us here today, others participating in the ceremony. Please stand and raise your hand to be recognized. First, our keynote speakers, Mayor John Stokes, and our County Commissioner Bruce Earp, Dr. Robert Gilday, the Superintendent of Hollidaysburg. I screwed that up at Gettysburg. Miss Amy Dodson, history teacher from the Hollidaysburg Area High School. Members of the Halloran family. The Blair County Honor Guard. Singing our national anthem today, "End America," is Rebecca Culp. Leading us in our Pledge of Allegiance is Reagan Fitch. Playing taps for us is a Hollidaysburg Area High School senior to be this year, Kirk Eichenlaub. And is already introduced, providing Overwatch Safe Journey, the MPs of the 28th Military Police Company. I believe I saw Judy Ward. There's Judy. Thanks for coming, Judy. John McGinnis, sir, where are you? Please wave. In the back behind the bleachers. And standing right beside him is Senator John Eichelberg. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for being here today. We also have the Daughters of the American Revolution, Adam Holliday Chapter. Dars, where are you at, darlings? Let's hear it for them. I know they're here. And the officers of the American Legion Post 516. With us here today, I have Denny Hare, Joe Patterson, Joe Dodson, Marty Culp, and I believe David Bailey. Gentlemen, raise your hands. Stand up. And of course, all of you, members of our great community of Hollidaysburg. As a point of protocol and procedure, as we honor history, we ask you stand as you are able, and only if you are able, remain silent and render the proper honors by saluting or placing your hand over your heart as appropriate when we post the colors, sing the national anthem, play taps, and finally retire the colors. I ask that you take your cues from me during the ceremony. In a minute, I will be giving the command to post the colors. Once the colors are present, coming down the sidewalk, I will ask those to present arms. Rebecca Culp, again an alumnus from Hollidaysburg, will sing the national anthem for us. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's get going then. Please stand as you are able and remain standing through the Pledge of Allegiance. Blair County Honor Guard, post the colors. Present arms. At this time, I'd ask Father Legarski to come forward and give us the invocation. Father.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we have gathered in this place now for a specific purpose. The flag before us that we are rededicating today has a special significance for the citizens of Hollidaysburg. Born out of a sense of patriotism and support for the saving of our Union, an organization of patriotic ladies gave birth with their hands and their hearts to this symbol of our nation. It was proudly accepted, possessed, and protected by your servant and our soldier, Jack Mufti. Today, it continues to be present among us as a reminder of the tragedy of the war that bitterly divided our nation, but in the end preserved it. Beginning anew today, we pray that those who fought under these colors, endured the battles that are inscribed upon its stripes, and returned it to us as a testimony of courage, bravery, patriotism, and valor, may have the gratitude of future generations. And just as Jack Mufti and his fellow soldiers carried this flag under the dark clouds of war, May future generations carry our flag under the bright light of freedom as one nation, under God, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you, Father. This time, Reagan Fitch, a recent graduate of the Hollidaysburg Area High School and a committee member for the battle flag, will now lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Reagan?
Honor guard, freeze, Ed. Come on.
To the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Forward, there.
Thank you, Reagan.
Come on. All right. Hit.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Now for our flag dedication. Over 156 years ago, the men of Company M were living normal, peaceful lives here in Blair County. They were farmers, railroaders, blacksmiths, storekeepers, mill workers, and alike professions of the time. After the rebel forces fired on Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor on April the 12th, 1861, President Lincoln put out a call to arms to crush the rebellion and to preserve the Union. Over 125 men with names like Murray, Potts, Mufti, Watkins, and Halloran answered the call to duty to become volunteer soldiers. These men willingly left their families, their homes, their way of life to become soldiers. They would embark on a journey unlike many others at the time, as they went off to fight the American Civil War as volunteers in the Army of the Potomac. The soldiers of Company M would see action in every major engagement in the Eastern Theater of War. Places like 7 Days Battle, Antietam, Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, and of course, Gettysburg. That's just to name a few. President Abraham Lincoln gave his second inaugural address on Saturday, March 4th, 1865. Within a few weeks, victory would be achieved on the battlefield, and regrettably, Lincoln would be dead. But he left us these words to remember: with malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphans, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and all nations. President Lincoln was, of course, talking about finishing the Civil War and taking care of the veterans and their family members afterwards. Today, we uphold President Lincoln's mandate as we pay tribute to those who served and those who paid the ultimate sacrifice to keep our nation as one. After 154 years, we honor the service of our hometown veteran heroes who answered the call to arms and saved our nation. Today, we gather to rededicate Company M's battle flag and honor the men who served under her. At this time, I would like to introduce some very special guests: Timothy Breslin and Michael Halloran. These gentlemen are direct descendants of Private Michael Halloran, who served in Company M and survived the war. After the war, he was the original caretaker of the flag, and most noteworthy, it was Private Halloran who presented the flag on behalf of the 6 remaining soldiers of the company to the borough of Hollidaysburg in 1905. These gentlemen have the honor of unveiling the battle flag and the replica here in front of you. Gentlemen, the duty is yours.
On behalf of our great-grandfather, Private Michael Halloran, and all the other men who served in Company M, the 62nd Infantry Regiment,
We present the preserved battle flag for rededication at the Blair County Courthouse on the 154th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. May we never forget those who fought and died in the Civil War to preserve our great nation. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, a point of explanation. In front of me is the replica. In the case is the original. The Smithsonian has directed us to not hang the flag any longer. It is to be horizontal, to preclude it from deteriorating any further. The weight on the threads would rip. So it has been preserved in this case. It was put together by a local artisan, Tab Black, one of our hometown members. I am pleased to report to you that after this ceremony, we will move the battle flag to the public library, the Hollidaysburg area public library. And it will be on display throughout the summer months at the library. During the school year, the American Legion will return it to the high school, where it will be displayed at the high school for the students. And we will repeat this through the years to come, so everyone will have the benefit of the flag. I'd like to introduce to you our first guest speaker, Miss Amy Dodson, Hollidaysburg area's high school history teacher and also reenactor, to share with us some thoughts about Company M. Amy?
For nearly 2 years, it's been my privilege to try to get to know the men of Company M, to chase them through history, to try to see what their thoughts were. When we think of the Civil War, we think of stories of battle, and there's nothing wrong with this, but what really struck me about these men is their normalcy. They are Blair County men, they are Hollidaysburg men, they're everyday people. Many of them, they're carpenters, they're house painters, they worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad. They were men like John Mufti, who stood up at a ball here in Hollidaysburg and volunteered to carry this flag into battle. They're men like Sergeant John Garden, who sent a 2-page account of the Battle of Gettysburg home to be published in the Altoona Tribune. After the war, he went home and married his sweetheart, Kate. There were men like Michael Halloran, who enlisted when he was only 15. He spent decades fighting to ensure that this flag and Company M were not forgotten. Generations of Hallorans have continued this fight. There were men like W.J. Blaine, who was the Civil War correspondent for the Altoona Tribune. In 1861, he published a 4-verse sonnet only addressed to a young lady in Altoona. We'll never know if the lady was shy and didn't want her name published, or if he was actually addressing more than one person. Unfortunately, Blaine has a twist in his story. He wrote articles glorifying the 62nd nearly every week, talking about their training, their victories in battle, and then in 1862, all record of him just stopped. And initially we thought maybe he was killed, maybe he was captured, but we found in his service record that he was listed as a deserter. So all this time that he spent, and 2 years into the war, he's deserted, he's gone. These men did seem to share a few common goals, though. They wanted to create an identity for Company M. They wanted to send their stories home and make sure that they were told. And then after the war, that they want to make sure that they are remembered. When Lincoln first called for volunteers for a 3-month enlistment, the men from Blair County answered this call, and they called themselves the Juniata Rifles. But they never saw service, and it must have given them some negative press because Blaine felt the need to write a 1-page scathing editorial defending their valor even though they never actually fought. When they came home after their service expired, they immediately reformed. Blaine actually wrote the advertisement for the unit, and he put a song in this advertisement with such line as, "When your names will shine in glory on the brightest page of fame, and your deeds will live in story." They had very high hopes. They called themselves the Blair Sharpshooters. They mustered out in August of 1861 and joined the 62nd PA in Pittsburgh. And they wanted, again, this glory, but at first they had some struggles. Apparently, one of their first assignments was to guard a camp in the South. And some of the men decided that they were going to go out foraging and try to find food. But they were in the middle of enemy territory. However, they forgot to take their rifles with them. And so they were captured. Blaine wrote home to the Altoona Tribune, "I suppose you are aware that several of our troops were captured. The capture of men who are silly enough to leave their guns is not much regretted. There are plenty of better men to take their places." Things could only improve from there. They fought in many battles, and these are inscribed upon the flag, but by Gettysburg, the men are far more experienced. In the wheat field, they fought, and the wheat field is one of the most chaotic and confusing parts of this battlefield. But Sergeant John Garden, who took up writing to the Tribune after Blaine left the Army, actually wrote a nearly two-page account of what had happened, trying to make sense of this battle. And he said, "Our men stood to the work bravely, never yielding an inch, firing and loading as coolly as if they were on drill." In this battle alone, Garden reported that 21 men were killed, 124 were wounded, and 78 were missing from the 62nd, and these numbers only went up as more men were accounted for. Several of these men were from Company M, and several of them were from here in Hollidaysburg. After Gettysburg, the 62nd continued to fight on, and more battles were eventually inscribed upon their flag. But eventually their terms expired. There were enough casualties that the 62nd was completely disbanded. Of the original men of Company M, 25 men transferred their enlistment to the 21st PA, and a year later the war ended. After the war, their stories don't end. The men of Company M came home. Jack Mufti, John Garden, Michael Halloran, they all appear in the Altoona Tribune periodically over the next few decades. They helped create the Grand Army of the Republic posts. They attended reunions. Michael Halloran placed the flag in its original case. And there are many accounts over the years of him taking the flag out, putting it on display, and telling the story of Company M. In 1890, we see one of the last instances where these three men appeared together, and that is at the funeral of Captain Murray, who helped initially form the unit. These men, they did attend each other's funerals, and you can see if you look at the Altoona Tribune, as time goes on, they listed all of the members of Company M that were at funerals, and the list gets smaller and smaller and smaller over time. I think they probably could see that their time was passing away in history. Michael Halloran was only 15 when he joined, so he lived longer than many in the unit, and he continued to display the flag until he too passed away. Ultimately, war spared the lives of some of the men of Company M, but time did not. Today, Jack Mufti, John Garden, and Michael Halloran, and others of Company M cannot speak for themselves. They were never famous, yet 154 years later, we are here to tell their stories. So the flag and the identity of Company M that they fought to create lives on. And in this way, they have authored their own legacy.
Thank you, Amy. I now would like to introduce our second speaker, Dr. Robert Gilday, Superintendent of the School District, to tell us the story of the battle flag. Bob?
As Ms. Dodson alluded to, one of the greatest things about the Civil War is that it was so well documented. We can go back and look at information that's available to us and know exactly where Company M fought, where they were, when they were there, when they were killed, and that's the fascination of it. And the same can be said about the flag that we are honoring today. Amazingly enough, 154 years of history is very well documented, and thanks to the work of Tim Breslin and others, we have a lot of information about the flag. We are gathered here today to rededicate what is quite possibly the most treasured surviving artifact of Hollidaysburg's long and storied history. In order to give you an understanding of the importance of this artifact, I take you back 156 years ago, 1861. The small town of Hollidaysburg, having been established less than 30 years prior, had a booming population of approximately 2,000 residents. The town's growth spurred by the Pennsylvania Canal, the Portage Railroad, and burgeoning industrial and commercial development, as well as its designation as the county seat. With the inauguration of Abraham Lincoln as president in March of that year, the people of the North became convinced that the southern states were bent on dissolving the Union. A special session of Congress, which convened July 4th, 1861, authorized the president to issue a call for 500,000 volunteers to serve for 3 years or for the duration of the war. The North was filled with patriotic excitement. Everyone wanted to do something to further the cause. Desiring to raise money to aid the soldiers, the young women of Hollidaysburg held a fair, and with part of the proceeds from that fair, they purchased a flag. These patriotic women also gave a ball in honor of the men who had enlisted. During the course of the ball, the flag was brought forward, and the spokeswoman announced that it would be given to the man who would take good care of it and who would bring it back at the conclusion of the war. Jack Mufti stepped forward and proudly declared, "I will bring back that flag." First Sergeant Mufti soon thereafter enlisted in Company M, 62nd Regiment, Pennsylvania Volunteer Infantry. Miraculously, the flag and its original guardian both survived the war, including many of the most violent and deadly battles, including Antietam, Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, and Gettysburg. The flag contains many bullet holes, as you see, its ends frayed out by the winds of Virginia, and a gaping hole through the blue field purportedly exacted by a rebel shell. When the war was over, Mufti returned the flag safely to its home of Hollidaysburg, as he had promised to do 3 years prior. Following the war, Sergeant Mufti and his comrades had the names of the battles printed on the flag as a reminder to all of the arduous path they had traveled. Though Jack Mufti was the original guardian of the flag, he knew that he alone could no longer ensure its safety. If this relic were to survive the ages, it would need many others to follow Jack's lead and care for its well-being. One such man was Michael Halloran, another veteran of Company M. He and his surviving comrades had the flag encased in glass at Gable's department store in 1905. Halloran donated it to Hollidaysburg Borough Council to be displayed proudly in Municipal Hall. And his great-grandsons will tell the story of how he rode the trolley car from Altoona to go to that borough meeting. According to documentation, the last survivor of Company M, Orrin P. Finney, almost as his dying wish, requested that the flag be removed to a fireproof building. At that time, there were very few fireproof buildings in Hollidaysburg. 4 years after his death, his request was granted, and the flag was removed to the newly constructed, state-of-the-art Hollidaysburg High School, the same building that serves as our junior high today. At a regular meeting of the Borough Council in June 1938, the council, by unanimous resolution, gave the flag to the Hollidaysburg School District on condition that it be perpetually displayed in a fireproof building for future generations of students who may regard it as a lesson in patriotism and a reminder of the sacrifices made by our brave servicemen. The Civil War flag of Company M, 62nd Regiment, was proudly displayed for decades in the old high school building on Hart Street. But as the years passed, the significance of this relic must have faded. Fortunately, another guardian of the flag arrived just in time to save it from destruction. In 1963, an elderly gentleman stopped in the high school library to visit first-year librarian Jan Kinney, who is with us today. It was his wish to see the Company M flag one more time before his death. After a brief search, the flag was found in a custodian's closet. Years prior, the building custodian had been directed to take it from an office wall and get rid of it. Fortunately, he knew the historical significance of the flag and did not follow this misguided directive. Mrs. Kinney returned the flag to a suitable display in the school library, where it remained until the new high school was built on its current location in 1971. Decades of students still recall the flag being proudly displayed on the library wall above the circulation desk. During renovations of the senior high school in 1995, the flag was once again placed in storage and forgotten. It remained there for 20 years until being liberated in the spring of 2015. Despite its age and years of neglect, the flag remained in remarkable condition. Thanks to the efforts of American Legion Post 516, the Hollidaysburg Area Women's Club, the Michael Halloran family, the Blair County Genealogical and Historical Societies, teacher Amy Dodson in the Hollidaysburg High School History Club, Mayor John Stokes in the borough of Hollidaysburg, the Hollidaysburg Public Library, and Jody Albareno in the Hollidaysburg Area School District Foundation, we have professionally preserved this priceless relic of our town's proud history to be viewed for generations henceforth as a hallowed reminder of the sacrifices our Hollidaysburg ancestors were willing to make to ensure the freedom of this great nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gilday. At this time, I would like to ask the Mayor of the Borough of Hollidaysburg, John Stokes, to come up and share some thoughts with us. Mayor?
Thank you, Mitch. It's wonderful to see such a turnout on a Sunday afternoon, a holiday weekend. 4 in the afternoon, and it's hot. I'm sure you all are. I don't have much to say, so we'll move this right along. History was made today in the wheat field in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I was very impressed to be there. I'm not a military person, but the program that was put on down there and the rededication of that flag in the wheat field where it flew with our men from the Hollidaysburg borough was very, very impressive. There was a congressman there who gave some comments, along with a gentleman from the National Park Service. Wonderful program, and it's continuing here as we speak, and you all are participating in it right now, and it's a wonderful thing for me as the mayor to be up here to say thank you all for coming today. There were in excess of 200 people down there today, and one or two comments that I have. The battle in the wheat field was one of the deadliest of the Gettysburg campaign. Our flag was flying in that campaign, and probably some of the bullet holes that you'll see when you get an opportunity to go by it were put in it in that wheat field. It was such an attraction down there today that we were almost late coming home. We had to wait for all the people that wished to file by and look at it, take pictures of it till they were done, and Jody Albrano was watching her watch there, like we have to get back to Hollidaysburg to conclude this program. But we made it, and it was very interesting. It was probably the highlight of the day's events in the Gettysburg battlefield on this 154th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. This is a priceless reminder of the sacrifices that were made in the name of freedom by our forefathers. It has been brought back to life by this committee. You've heard Dr. Gaudet mention who all was involved in that. It is exciting to know that we've got a traveling piece that can be put on display at different events, yet permanently it will be displayed in that the display case that was custom made to the specifications of the Smithsonian Institute. So that flag should carry on for years and years to come and be able to be seen by many, many of our children, their children's children, and so forth. It's my honor to be up here. Thank you all for coming out. And I'll end by saying, ladies and gentlemen, God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The county commissioners were kind enough to allow us to perform this ceremony here today. And with us today to share some thoughts is Commissioner Erb. Sir?
Thank you, Mitch, and thank all of you for coming out today. This is an impressive turnout. This is also a very important occasion. We're honored that the courthouse was chosen as the venue for the Hollidaysburg portion of today's rededication ceremony. The battle flag before us is an incredible reminder of the role that the volunteer company from Hollidaysburg played in one of the most pivotal times in American history. Now, Mrs. Kinney, I can recall being in the library when you were there and looking at this historic flag. That was just a few years back, of course. But I have to think every student, particularly students who were history fans and buffs, had to be impressed and just kind of would wonder sometimes about the stories the flag could tell if it could speak to us. And it seems fitting that this ceremony today should be held in the shadow of Blair County's Civil War monument over here to my left. You know, you've probably either walked by, driven by, or passed by it countless times, but maybe you haven't looked closely at it. This magnificent monument was unveiled in June 1896 during the celebration of Blair County's semi-centennial. It was, as today, publicly bid and cost $10,000 to produce, and $10,000 in 1896 is a whole lot of money today, hundreds of thousands of dollars. In the detail of the statue, it includes 3 Union soldiers, one with his hand on his heart, another prepared to fire a cannon, and the third, the one at the top, holding the flag of the United States. And if you look very closely and you have a chance to go up to the front, on the base, there's a detailed bronze plaque depicting the Battle of Gettysburg, and you can realize that both this flag and these men we've talked about may well be depicted in that. The monument is a perfect companion to the venerated flag we honor today. But more than the flag, we honor those who served the United States of America and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania during this very difficult and the bloodiest war of our history. Etched on the statue are these words: tribute of Blair County in honor of her sons who fought for the Union, 1861 to 1865. On behalf of the Blair County Board of Commissioners, I want to thank all of those many individuals and organizations discussed, listed, and talked about, and others that weren't, who are responsible for the restoration of this iconic flag. May it, along with our Civil War monument, forever remind us of our ancestors and forefathers who fought to save the Union and of our obligation to preserve what they won. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. At this time, Rebecca Culp will rejoin us to sing America. Rebecca?
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self thy country blessed be nobleness and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream, who sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Please be seated. Please be seated. Thank you, Rebecca. I got a report that was brought to my attention earlier today by her mother that Rebecca is a daughter of the Confederacy, but we're glad to have her in Pennsylvania. Her great-great-grandfather fought with the 8th Alabama. And, of course, Rebecca is the daughter of Marty and Dell Culp, who are with us here today. Give us another wave, parents. You'll be very proud. Rebecca told me she's a full-blooded Yankee, so I'm staying with that. At this time, our VIPs, Commissioner Erb, Mayor Stokes, and Dr. Gilday, will now lay the wreath provided by Warner's Florists with the assistance of Private John Westner, a teacher here at the Hollidaysburg school system and also a reenactor portraying a Union soldier from the 62nd Infantry Regiment. Gentlemen, perform your tasks. Thank you, gentlemen. Father Logarski at this time will conduct the blessing of the monument and the battle flags. Father.
Can't hold my hand up with this in it. They'll think I was made a bishop. That wouldn't sit well with Bishop Barczyk. Let us pray. Lord God, and great commander of nations, we ask you to watch over this treasured artifact of our history and of our country. We ask you to protect these flags from all damage, disrespect, and desecration. May they serve to instill in those who care for them, pass by them, or reflect upon them a sense of duty, citizenship, and gratitude to you and those who serve under our flag. May no harm come to them and to this memorial flag in particular, as now it is placed under and commended to the watchful eye of your divine protection. For you live and reign forever and ever. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as you are able and render the proper honors by saluting or placing your hand over your heart, while Kirk Eichenlaub, an Eagle Scout candidate and a member of the Hollidaysburg Golden Tiger Band, will play taps for us.
On guard! Attend! Freeze and horns!
At this time, Father Garski will lead us in our benediction. Father.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, as we prepare to take this small but significant part of our history to a place of honor to be enjoyed by all who see it, contemplate its meaning and significance, enable them to do so with the same level of love, respect, gratitude, and patriotism that brought it to us here today. For you live and reign forever and ever.
We're going off script for a moment. You may be seated. As you've heard, we've had numerous organizations and also many individuals who've been responsible for the preservation of this flag. No one more so than the gentleman standing behind me, who is very bossy, by the way. Sam Dunkel came to our meeting one night and said, we're going to rededicate this thing on the Gettysburg battlefield. And no one said anything, but I think we all had a collective thought that he was crazy. And sure enough, he pulled it off. He has a lot of connections across the state, and he worked tirelessly to give the men of Company M the proper, and their flag, the proper attention that they and it deserves. So could we please give a hand to Sam?
Since we're off script, I want to say thanks to everyone who contributed to the flag. The monies that were raised, phenomenal amounts, over $8,000. I want to thank Jody Albrano over there trying to hide for all our work. And this was truly a community effort, a community that we can all be very proud to say, we're from Hollidaysburg. So it was a great honor. It's an honor on behalf of all my fellow Legionnaires from Post 516 to sponsor this. So with that, we'll return to the script. Thank you for coming out here today. Color Guard, retire the colors.
Honor Guard, attention. Retire the colors. One step forward, march. Right, peace. Forward.
Present arms.
Forward, arms. Forward, arms.
Order arms. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. So again, we want to thank you all for turning out today. So let us strive to keep our American history alive and in the hearts and minds of our citizens, while we remember the veterans of our past. Let us not forget those currently serving in harm's way. May they be under God's protection and come home safely. On behalf of the American Legion Post 516, and the Gettysburg National Military Park, we thank them for allowing us to have this ceremony down there. We are greatly honored to be able to perform this duty here today. Upon completion of the ceremony, there will be a reception held in our very own Hollidaysburg Area Public Library, sponsored by the Hollidaysburg Area Women's Club and the Friends of the Library. You are free to assemble in a formal line and come by and pay your respects to the flag. This concludes our ceremony. We have completed our mission. The flag is yours.